You're listening to Good Reporters Podcast, encouraging you to use your platform and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, because good reporters bring good news.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's your boy Chris Edwards, aka Young Christ-like on social media, and today we want to start off coming in hot, flying off the top ropes for episode 10. And I know I told y'all I brought in episode 10 last time, episode 9, low-key kind of episode 10. With a little bit less energy. So today we flying off the top ropes, and we're coming with a very special guest. Some of you may know him, some of you may not, and today you get a chance and an opportunity to just hear from him and to hear some wisdom imparted into your life. And right now, I want to introduce to y'all a very special guest, a brother to me at this point has been very helpful in small ways and in big ways. His name, Cornelius Lindsay. Introduce yourself, my brother.
Chris?
How you doing?
Man, I appreciate you having me on here, man. I'm incredibly honored to be on with you.
No, I appreciate
Especially
it,
for your 10th episode. I mean, it's not a light thing to do these. I know a lot of times people look at it from the outside and assume that this is an easy thing, but there's a lot of production goes into it. Content creation is not easy. So
not at all.
I applaud you. Keep going.
I appreciate that, man. Look, not at all. The setup, the lighting, everything. I mean, just the people that go behind it. And just want to thank everybody, even the listeners, because you're the reason why we even continue, right? Why we even go. Yeah. So you could speak into a camera, but if nobody's listening, it gets really discouraging, right? But today we want to start up new. I mean, it's the same series. It's Love Conquers All series, but this is a new episode, a new topic. This topic, honestly, I mean, we're going to talk about the name soon, but the reason why I decided to invite Cornelius, because I honestly couldn't find somebody better. Like I couldn't find anybody better for this topic or better for the idea of love that I know in my life that's helped me or impacted me in any way, either through just seeing or through just advice that he's given me. Like, honestly, the relationship that I'm in right now with my girlfriend, there was a point where I needed, a little bit of guidance or help or just counseling. And he definitely, with nothing in return, I mean, nothing I could honestly give him, just looked out for me and gave honest opinions and gave some encouragement. And so honestly, there's nobody, and just looking at your wife as well, your wife, yourself, your children, everyone who could follow you, could see you on Instagram. And if you don't follow him and his family, please do. They're the Lindsays. I'll put all the information at the end of this episode. But just looking at all of that and looking at the advice you've given and just looking at how you've been helpful in that way, there's nobody else that I honestly could think that would be greater for this episode than you. And so I appreciate you coming on, man. And I hope that everybody is really blessed by this episode. And so today,
I'm honored.
Love Conquers All. That's the episode. We flying, like I said, we flying off the top ropes. You got to come in hot. You got to come in with the energy. I feel like somebody kind of told me that before. I don't really know who, but you know what I mean?
I don't know. It sounds like you're a wrestling fan.
It sounds like
what it sounds like to me.
It sounds like Ultimate Warrior, my brother. It's but today, this episode, we're going to entitle this episode Backbones and Ribs. And that's interesting, right? Kind of made me a little hungry. Like I just feel like eating something now. Honestly, I'm going to get something to eat right after I record this. But why backbones and ribs? And what would that even mean in terms of love? Cornelius, what you think?
Well, when you look in Genesis, backbones and ribs, it's very apparent that God, after he put Adam to sleep, then the Bible says that he fashioned the woman, out of the rib that came out of Adam. And ribs are very important to the body. Like you gonna need some ribs to live. I know, we trying to get one. You trying to get, one taken out sometimes to look a little smaller, but you need those ribs because ribs are protective. Yeah. Because the ribs help to protect all those vital organs that are ultimately behind it. So if the woman can be equated to that of the rib, then why can't we equate Adam to the backbone? The backbone is needed. That vertebrae is needed because that backbone is what's going to help to keep the entire body up. Yeah. And when you have a strong backbone, then your body can be strong. Wow. But if you've ever noticed, when you have a pinch in your backbone, and when you have a pinch in your vertebrae, when your spine is pinched, or you got a pinched nerve or something like that, then you cannot walk. You can't bend over. Certain things you can't do. So if we look at Adam as the backbone, then Eve is definitely the rib.
Eve is the rib, man. That's wow. I mean, that like we spoke about the topic a bit, I came up with some very churchy titles that wasn't flying. Like my titles were so.
I was like, yo, those some churchy titles, brother.
He's like, look, man, like, you know, it was so big, like, you know, love God, like love for yourself and love your wife and your husband. Like it was basic. So we're gonna, and Cornelius, man, that honestly is even deeper than I thought. Like that's the rib protected, and then you talk about the backbone. Man, let me fix my posture. Honestly, like when you said backbone, started realizing I was slouching over. But no, that's super powerful, and that's huge. And this is why I think for the body and like how the Bible talks about, I won't quote a scripture right now because I don't have it, and I'm not trying to lead y'all astray. But when the scripture talks about how we're all parts of the body of Christ, right? And it's just like, you know, the foot is just as important, the hand is important, the eyes are important, the ears, all of these things. Same thing will go in that sense. The rib is important. Like you said, it protects those vital
Absolutely.
organs. The backbone is important because like I said, if it wasn't for that, I'd be laid out on this table right now and I'd look real crazy. It's like, you know, y'all ever seen that?
Absolutely.
You ever seen that commercial back in the days that was trying to get you to stop smoking cigarettes? And then there'll just be like that really flat person on the table. I was sitting on a chair.
Oh yeah.
Man, it gave me nightmares when I was a kid. But at the same time, that's the same visual that I get here, where it's like the importance of both of them. Because I mean, even if you didn't have the backbone, you'd be flat out on that table. But if you didn't have the ribs, like you said, them vital organs, they're basically ready to get punctured. You know, ready to get messed up. So they're very important. And so here goes one. Because for me, like I said, Cornelius has helped me. I mean, man, like more than you even know, honestly, just through simple conversations and just through simple advice. And for me, I feel like a backbone. When I hear the word backbone, it makes me think of, I guess you could like a sergeant almost, right? Like it's weird to kind of put those two together, but it makes me think of a sergeant where it's kind of just like straight up back, you know, yes, sir. Very stern, but at the same time, very to the point and getting things done. That's what I think about when I think backbone. And for me, I think there's been fears, and I think some people are really just, I'm get it done. Some people have fears where it's like, I can get it done, but at the same time, what ifs, you know, anxiety, all of those things. And so for me, I feel like that's kind of been something that kind of scared me at a point in time in my life. I'm much better at it now. God's been working. But there was a point where I really felt like, man, like just the backbone part of me as a young man, now transitioning into a grown man, having to get married one day, you know, watch my own children. And, you know, it's hard enough watching other people's children, but watch my own children, take care of them, right. You know, provide financially. I have to have a backbone and be a backbone for that. And for me, it's kind of just like, it stopped me from jumping a bit or made me think a little bit because a lot of what ifs. And the question that I have for you would be, what holds most men back, you think, from jumping? Do you think it would be something like that?
I think that it's a couple of different things. I think one of the big things that holds a lot of men back is that they just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
You know, another reason why, you know, I like to say backbone and ribs is because love requires a backbone. Love in itself is not flimsy.
Yeah.
Being in a relationship is not easy. Being married in itself is not easy. It requires something of you. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of times men just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So we're trying to expect men, and we're trying to expect women, but we're trying to expect men to live a certain way or to be a certain way in relationships and acquire a sense of love that, you know, they just don't know about.
Yeah. And
I think that becomes a big impediment for them. I think also another big impediment for men when it comes to love and when it comes to relationships and all those things, not just the fact that they just don't know, but also it's because of past trauma.
Yeah. Wow.
Because of relationships, because, you know, if this boy grew up and he had a fractured relationship with his mother, then he could go through life, you know, pretty much abusing every woman he comes in contact with, trying to ultimately get revenge on the mother that he didn't feel like loved him accurately.
Whoa. Wow.
If he didn't have a relationship with his father, then in the same way that, you know, it's almost like a little boy growing up without ever looking in a mirror.
Wow.
You know, because a father becomes the real life mirror that the boy gets a chance to look into and say, this is the potential of what I can be. My sons watch me when I shave.
Wow.
They don't look in the mirror at me. They look at me.
Yeah.
And I know I have to put my razors away when I shave, because ultimately I know that when I'm absent, they're going to go after my razors because they're going to want to copy what I do.
Right. Right.
So
wow.
When there is not an image looking back at you, then you don't have anything to emulate. And ultimately, when the heroes are absent, we follow the villains, because we're going to always look for an image to emulate.
Wow.
When you don't see Superman, when you don't see Aquaman, when you don't see, Batman is the anti-villain, but when you don't have the heroes around, then you'll follow the Green Goblin. You'll follow Penguin. You'll follow Joker. You'll be Two-Face, because that's all you know. You follow the villains because those are those are the only images that you see. Wow. So I think that when it comes to relationships and it comes to love and marriage and all those different things, I think that both men and women right now are on a major downslope. And there's just a lot of stuff that's out there right now. We're trying to throw rules and boundaries on relationships that ultimately,
man,
if I can be honest with you, it's almost like you're trying to keep a raging bull inside of a styrofoam case. That ultimately the rules and everything, it may keep him there for a little while, but as soon as he realizes he can bust through the styrofoam, he will. So I think that a lot of men they're just at a major disadvantage right now. They don't know what they don't know. Number two, they don't have anything to emulate. They have a lot of rules.
Yeah.
They know the rules, but they don't want to follow them. And I mean, and I'm not even saying they want to follow them as a slight towards them.
Yeah.
Because we come into the world. We come into the world as sinners. We come birthed from our mother's womb full of sin.
Yeah.
We have a bend towards it. Like nobody can say, well, I was born this way, I was born that way. We all came into this world with a bend towards sin. Yeah, that's why we have Jesus Christ to lead us in the right way and all this kind of stuff. But but I think those would be my two main reasons as to why I think that men really find themselves at a major disadvantage right now.
Nah, and that's a word. Look, I had this thing that I usually say when it starts getting hot in here, and I honestly was waiting. I was thinking maybe it would get a little hot after like the second question, the third question, but it's already getting hot in here, man. And somebody get me a napkin, because Cornelius, man, you're spitting right now. And I honestly want to put on a shirt the thing you were saying. I mean, I forgot the quote already, so I'm gonna have to listen to it back. But it was basically like, we don't have if we don't have any heroes. Like in like the idea of, if we don't have heroes in front of us, we'll basically emulate the enemies and the villains.
Yeah. So when the saying goes, when the heroes are absent, we follow the villains.
We follow the villains. I'm gonna put that on a shirt.
You'll always follow the villain.
You always follow the villain, and that. I mean,
because look at it, men. Boys grow up, and we all want community. We all want family. We all want companionship. We all want relationship. Yeah. And when the boy can't find that at home, then why do you think gangs are just so successful?
Powerful,
they don't go to the gang because they necessarily just want to be violent.
Right.
They join the gang because the gang provides them with community. The gang provides them with family.
Yeah.
But then the gang also appeals to their adventurous nature.
Wow.
Like the gang appeals to a violent nature. It appeals to brotherhood. So those are one of the things. It's like it's so important to be able to merge those two things together and see that men want that. I mean, men run towards fraternities for the same reason.
Yeah,
they run towards fraternities because fraternities provide them with community. Yeah. It provides them with relationship,
brotherhood, yeah,
and brotherhood. So when you lack what you need in the house, and when there are no heroes around for you to emulate, ultimately you follow the villains. And now you don't need to join a gang. You don't have to join a fraternity. You can get on social media.
Yeah.
There's enough villains for you to follow.
Yeah.
You can turn on music, enough villains for you to follow, or you can follow the heroes. It's just that most times, we look at the heroes and we say the heroes are lame. Yeah. So I don't want to follow the heroes because the heroes are lame. Yeah. I would rather follow the villains because it seems like the villains have more fun. It seems like the villains are getting away with it. The villains are when the heroes are absent, you follow the villains.
And that kind of takes me into another point when you kind of said that following the heroes it seems lame, right? Like it's just
Mm-hmm.
that brings me into the idea of Christianity a bit, right? As a Christian man, especially young. I'm 27 years old. As a young man, considering marriage, I mean, 27 is not as young as it was when I was 22, when you'd be considering marriage, or 20. It almost seems lame in this culture. It's kind of weird, but I mean, that's just like a point. It's like a segue. It kind of seems lame. When I've seen a lot of heroes in my life, not my parents. They were married at 30, but heroes in my life that have been married from young, successful marriages, and in the world, I see a way in which it could kind of look lame when you don't have that around you, right? Where it's kind of just like the world's standard is, go ahead, man, just have fun, live life. This is just the world. We're not talking about young Christian men. We're talking about the world. Go ahead, live life, have fun, maybe get married around 40, maybe. That's when you can settle down. And that's the hero mindset I could kind of see when you were talking about it. I could see like there is that, I mean, it doesn't matter exactly if you get married at 20 something, that doesn't make you a hero, but just the men who know what they want, who have that backbone and just like, man, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to provide for my family, kind of step away from that fear, right? Like you said, even though there's that FOMO, right? The FOMO, fear of missing out,
Mm-hmm.
or just that lack of knowledge. Like you said, if you don't know, you don't know. And so it's just like, you kind of get scared. But once we get past that, I think the only real struggle after that is just the mindset of, am I too young? Is it too young to get married? Am I going to be missing out on my whole life? Will I be missing out on experiences? But I know you being a person who's married, how could you explain that being maybe a lie, right? Where it's just like you getting married young or getting married before you're like 40 something years old. It's like, man, that's like a cage or something like that. How could you help young people who are believers, but even aren't believers, who may have that question? Like, is it this big scary thing to get married early or to get married?
Well, I mean, I got married at 23.
Yeah.
I got married at 23. And I'm going to tell you this. It doesn't matter if you get married at 23 or you get married at 40. It doesn't matter if you get married at 60. Relationships require work.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I mean, you know, people want to be single because single will allow for them to be selfish. And unfortunately, marriage means that I got to appeal to selflessness.
Yeah.
If I want it to work.
Yeah.
It means that there has to be some submission from both parties. Somebody can't do something right, but somebody can. One of us does this well, the other person doesn't. Yeah. This is how I think. This is how you think. There has to be some give and take. So it doesn't really matter, you know, the age. I think where it does matter when it comes into the maturity. Yeah. Like I married a woman who, I mean, my wife is 4 years older than I am. But I always, you know, I was always attracted to older women. Hey. So I think that it appeals to the maturity of the man and maturity of the woman. But I know brothers, they say, I'm gonna wait till I'm 35. Yeah. And they get married at 35 and, you know, 2 years later they got a divorce. Yeah, divorce, yeah. You know, because they thought, well, I can get everything out of my system. It's almost like, you know, what's the saying? They can get the hoe out the system. I want to get all my hoeing out. Get all the hoe. I can go through my hoeing season, and then when I get finished, I'm good to go. The problem is that the mindset still didn't change. Because marriage, you know, you saying something at an altar is not going to change your mentality. Yeah, for sure. It's not going to change your mentality. You can fall in love with somebody today, and it's the same idea as, you know, on Christmas when you had that toy that you wanted all year long. You're like, oh my goodness, I want this. I want the PS5. I want the PS5. I want the PS5. You open up the PS5 on Christmas because you're so excited about it. This is new. This is fresh. This is amazing. But then a PS6 comes out. The PS7 comes out. Now the PS5 is old news. Like I look at my son. I'm like, yo, come play the regular Nintendo with me. He don't want to. But in '86 when it came out, I thought that was the Ace Boon Coon. You know, I thought like that was the thing. But he looks at it now. He's like, I don't want to play with that. Right. Because it's old. It's them graphics. It's not new. So now with the same thing in marriage, you look around and you have to make that commitment every single day that no matter if a PS10 comes out, I'm still be cool with my PS5. Right. And I'm gonna stay with this. So the idea in the head that I can wait until I'm a certain age to get married. Yeah. I tell people this, brother, marriage requires work. anything.
Yeah.
Anything. You can't own a dog without taking care of it.
True.
Like, you can't have a fish without feeding it. You got to clean out the tank.
Yeah.
And I think one of the major impediments of our society today is that people don't want to work for anything.
They don't want to work.
They don't work for anything. They don't want to keep anything. They don't want to have hard conversations. They don't want to be honest. They don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to be transparent. And unfortunately, I think one of the places that it sits the most is in congregations. We can't be vulnerable. We can't be honest. We can't really say what it is. We gotta fake it till we make it. Then we don't fake it. We gotta faith it till we make it. And I think a lot of that, it tears away at the authenticity. It removes us away from real truth and realness, because we don't get an opportunity to really see these couples, that not just the couples who look great on Instagram, but the fights that they have.
Yeah.
And seeing that they make it and seeing that they continue forward. So, it's a lot. It's a lot, but I think that's one of the biggest things right there.
That's the point. And I think, that last point especially, that's the point. We don't see all that stuff, right? In the last episode, what I spoke about was 1 Corinthians 13, the breakdown in the Bible about love. Right. And I was reading NLT, but when you hear that part that said love keeps no records of being wrong. Huh? You know what I mean? Like, love keeps no records of being wrong. That's not the way I learned it from social media. You know what I mean? Yeah. Love says, I love you up until, and then once you do that one thing to me, you remember that time? You owe me a date today, because that time when you told me, or you was hanging out with Larry for longer than you should have been. You know what I mean? Like, love is that thing. And I think we don't get the picture because the world doesn't give us the full picture, right? The world gives us a snippet of it. The world gives us a post at 2:00 in the afternoon with a caption and some hashtags that tells us what love is supposed to be. But when you break it down, like you said, and you'll be speaking from experience, no matter what, marriage, owning a pet, family, relationships as a whole, is going to come with commitment. And I remember there was something I read in a breakdown in my Bible when I was reading the Song of Solomon, Song of Songs. In my Bible, it says Song of Solomon. And I was reading that, and there was a scriptural breakdown when it was talking about, don't wake in love before it's time. And one of the breakdowns, it said, I think everybody is in love with love. Like, the world is in love with love so much that we almost forget that there's not just the feelings of love, but there's also the willingness and the commitment necessary to keep love afloat. And that right there, it blew my mind. It blew my mind, because I remember at that time I was like head over heels, just thinking, oh, this is my wife. Is this girl I'm going to ask her? Like, should I talk to her? Like, should I, God, what is it? And we weren't even dating right there. But I'm like, God, should I date her? Or, asking him. And this is a question I'm going to ask you very shortly. But is this my wife? Give me a sign. You know what I mean? And it's funny, because that time when I was reading it, it was just like, it hit me right then and there. And when that scripture said that, it said, just take the time, basically, the breakdown said, basically just take the time to see that the feelings and that willingness to keep love afloat meets the same feelings of love, because that feeling is going to go away every now and again, go away, come back, but see that commitment necessary is kept there. And once I went ahead and did that, I started to relax myself. I realized the only thing that was really truly there was the feelings of love, not so much the commitment. And I think that's a large reason as to why most of those things fail. And that's why we get the facade in our head, like, oh, I'm going to get married at set time. If we're waiting for something to be somewhere at set place at set time, we'll be waiting forever. You know what I mean? Like, we'll be waiting forever for that in terms of love. And so you're right. And I think that's to get back to the main point. That's a big reason, I think, as to why people fear jumping, taking that leap of faith, is because we don't know. And so we're trying to jump out and like find a way to make it make sense. And well, maybe it's better if I, like you said, get the hoeing out, and actually it's funny. I have a point for that too. For me, let's be real, right? Let's open up a little bit. Let me shake my shoulders. Let's get back on the top ropes, because I'm jumping off again. Let's talk about this, because I think this is also important for young men too. We could get into a habit sometimes, and I think this happens with people, period, men and women, but we can get into a habit of, if it's not, well, God willing, you're not doing things with a bunch of different girls, but if it's not doing things with a bunch of different girls, it's talking to a bunch of different girls and thinking, like you said, I'm young, I'm free, I'm single. And that's the mindset that you have. But one thing I learned, this is literally right before I got into my relationship, for about a year, I wasn't talking to any girls, right? Air quotes, talking to any girls right before I met my girlfriend. or started actually dating my girlfriend. And I learned that my problem the whole time was I thought I could just turn it off, right? Because that's how the world pitches it to us. They take the fastball, they pitch it right to the glove, and they say, look, you can talk to whoever you want to. You're single, right? But when you're not single, turn it off. And I'll never forget reading something one day, and it was saying, basically, if you believe that you could just talk to a bunch of people, you're building a habit, talking to a bunch of girls. When this girl gets annoying, you talk to that girl. And that girl's, all right, I'm going to talk to this girl. I'm talking to these two girls at the same time. They're entertaining me. You think that when it actually comes to relationship time, you're not just going to cut it off and it's going to be easy, right? It's like you built a habit. And so for me, I had to learn right before that, for me, at least personally in my own life, was it's not necessarily negative to be talking to somebody if you're not in a relationship, but be careful. Because if you're talking to so many different people and just cutting people off just to talk to the next person, that thrill could kind of not go away. And when you wind up in a relationship and it gets difficult, it gets tough, you could kind of be, all right, what's the next thing? Because this person's starting to get annoying to me now, right? And so we could build up those habits of not, not just wanting to release things or not wanting to commit to things to the point where we actually start to commit to things. It gets very difficult. And then situations like what Cornelius mentioned, married at 35, divorced at 37, could very easily happen because of our habits before our dating. And so that was just a thought process that hit my head, and I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. But yeah, and so here goes another question, because I did say I would ask you this after I just mentioned what happened with the situation with me. The God told me who I'm going to marry culture, right? It's like a thing, and I don't want to look at it as if it's mystical, right? Because I mean, it could be. Some people have real life stories about it. Some people question it. What do you think about that? Like, is it free will? Is it God told me who I'm going to marry? That's the only way we have to move forward, is if I have that very specific confirmation, I heard the voice, or I feel that way, or could it be both? What do you think?
So I don't believe in the one. I don't believe in the theory that there's just one person out there for you to marry, and I don't necessarily believe in the one. If we are the one I believe in is Jesus Christ. That's the one you need. Shando. That's the only one, but I don't necessarily believe in the concept of the one. I don't even believe that. Even scripturally backing up the idea of the one is it can be done. I've seen people do it. I've seen people preach sermons on it, but in my opinion, they had to stretch the scriptures in order to get it to agree. But most of them use the concept of, the idea that marriage is forever, and that the divorce, that God never wanted a divorce. We get that from Malachi. And we also get from Abraham that although Moses approved it, that God never wanted it. But I still don't think that justifies the idea that there's just one person for you. And I tell this story a lot. There was a woman that I was dating before I met my wife, who I thought she was the one who God wanted me to marry. And we talked about marriage a lot. And honestly, I didn't want to meet nobody. I didn't want to meet nobody else's family. I had already met her mama. I knew her grandparents. Yeah. I knew her daddy. I knew her sibling, her sister. I just knew her family. She knew mine. I ain't always like her. She ain't always like me, but we had history. Yeah. I ain't feel like doing all that over again. So I was like, well, obviously we go to the same church. I felt like this just is going to be it.
It makes sense.
And it didn't happen that way. We got into an argument because her thing was she felt like I was spending. Her thing was that she said I put God before her, and she said if I was going to continue to put God before her, she said she don't want to be in a relationship like that. So I was like, well, that ain't going to change. So she got out the car. I told her, I said, hey, if you get out the car this time, we done. We're done. She got out the car. She slammed the door, and it was over with. And then I met Heather. And within the first 15 minutes of conversing with her, I thought, yo, this would be my wife. And I'm also like conversing with her, and I'm also like looking at her Facebook profile, and I'm like, yo, she's like a model. Like, of course it's my wife. Like, So I say that to say that here's this reason why I say love takes backbone. Because what we try to do is we try to put God in a box. We try to put God into equations and formulas that says, if I do all of these things correctly, And if I follow all of these things, then this is going to be my outcome. If A plus B equals C, then B plus A equals C. So if I just do A, B, I will always have C. And life does not work that way. In fact, God does not even tell us that that life will work that way. He tells us to expect for trials and tribulations and things that will happen to our life. So when you look at the world, and when you look at love, you look at relationships, it takes backbone. Because one thing that you got to know is that I can be in a Gomer situation where if I have to marry a harlot, if I got to marry a prostitute, then with love, with 1 Corinthians 13 that you mentioned, I should be able to make it work.
Right.
Why? Because love don't hold a record. Love is gonna persevere long. I should be able to do it with agape.
Yeah.
Now, when it come to Euros and stuff like that, like if I know she a harlot, I may not, it's a lot that goes into that. But nevertheless, the idea that there's just one for us, that part right there gets me. And then that, the whole thing, I'm waiting on God to reveal this person to me. I think with a lot of the people, I think it's those individuals who have way too many options.
Yeah.
They got way too many options. And I'm going to throw this out there too, and people ain't going to like it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to just say it.
Yeah.
I think everybody wants somebody that they are not.
Oh.
People are looking for perfection, and they are nowhere close to it. They want it. They have all these boundaries, all these rules. These are my red lines. You can't cross them. And this is what I'm going to do. And I ain't going to tolerate this. But you don't even meet half of it yourself.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are looking for perfection. They're waiting for God to show them this perfect man, this perfect woman that just doesn't exist. Because everybody, I was talking to somebody the other day and it was like, my wife was talking to these ladies and they mentioned that they wanted a man like Russell Wilson. I'm like, y'all don't even know Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Like Sierra got her own issue with Russell Wilson. All y'all know from Russell Wilson that Russell Wilson said he loved him some Sierra.
Yeah.
I love me some Heaven, but Cornelius got problems. Russell Wilson got problems. His feet probably stink. Like, you don't know. You have no idea. Sierra knows. Yeah. We don't know, but it's easy to look on the outside and say, I want me a Russell Wilson because I feel like that's the kind of relationship I want to emulate, which is the same thing that a lot of our parents grew up seeing. Our parents grew up seeing it. We grew up seeing it. We looked at pastors and first ladies on the stage who they loved each other. They had pastors' anniversaries and they were hugging on each other and they were talking to each other and everything just seemed great. Then all of a sudden, pastor and first lady got a divorce. And you're like, hold up, I thought pastor was so great. Yeah. I thought first lady was amazing. But you cheated on first lady with the nurse. And now we begin to look and how I thought first lady was the one. Well, God had another one hidden. Was she hidden in the bushel? So, it's like, so you married a Sarah, but I see that you got Hagar. So we got to have a conversation. You know what I mean? So
hilarious.
That whole idea is very slanted for me, and I can't get with it.
Oh, I agree with that. And he married a Sarah. That's hilarious. No, I thought about this too. This is, I'm a side note a bit. I'm gonna step aside real quick. Just at that point, amazing. What you're saying, that's spot on. I hope people are really receiving that and people are really taking notes or something. But really hearing that, because that's vital. But also let's talk about this. I asked my friend in podcast, my boy Avery, in podcast episode 4 or 5, podcast episode 5, we did a little game at the end. And I was like, let's do, what was it? Would you rather? So we played a little Would You Rather, Christian style. You know what I mean? We went Christian style. And I said, would you rather, would you rather, what was it? Would you rather be married to Delilah? You can't get a divorce. You're stuck. You're married to Delilah. You cannot get a divorce. Or you would have to be in a position of Joseph with Mary, but you don't have like an angel or a messenger coming to tell you, this is the child and this is Jesus and, don't worry about it. You're just basically told by your girlfriend, fiance, who's supposedly a virgin, that she's pregnant and it's not from you or anybody and she's still a virgin. You have to either believe that and keep moving forward or be married to Delilah for the rest of your life. Which one would you choose? I asked him that. I want to ask you the same question because I think, why not?
I'll probably go with Mary.
You go with Mary?
I mean, I would go with a Joseph and Mary thing, because here's the thing: if she's still a virgin, then I can still prove it. I mean, if the Holy Spirit implanted the baby, the Holy Spirit didn't go. The Holy Spirit didn't go through the natural way. So if she's still a virgin, then I mean, ultimately, I think a cherry should still pop. So we should be able to see it. And if it don't, I'd probably prefer a Mary situation and probably a Delilah.
Yeah. Okay. So
I can still prove a Mary.
So
I mean, with Delilah, you'll already know. But I mean, and who knows? Delilah may be fun. She may be real fun to hang out with. So I don't know. It's really catch-22. Delilah just sounds like she just would have been a load of fun. That's all.
She was gonna ask you a bunch of annoying questions, like what are you allergic to? Like shrimp? Okay, like you're gonna have shrimp for dinner tonight. God. Like it's time for shrimp for dinner. How you feel about that? But she's just gonna be messing up your meals. Honestly, that's probably gonna be the worst thing for you. What do you don't like to eat? Like I don't like to eat like chicken. Like, oh well, we're gonna have chicken souffle. That don't even make sense, but that's possible. But anyway, so let's hop off of that topic. So the last question I want to ask you, and I appreciate you answering these questions. I mean, I really, like I said, I hope everybody's really taking notes on that. But this is the last question I have, and this one is: how do you deal with pressures, with like the pressures of having to lead? How would you possibly deal with those pressures?
With those pressures of having to do what?
To lead as a man, yeah.
When you mean pressures in you mean in my home, as for my kids, my wife, or you talking about with society, or what in what reference?
Let's start off with the as a man, right? This is society's way of telling us we need to lead. And now what that looks like, right? Because we can go back to the scripture and let's talk about this. This is Ephesians 5:21 through 28. And I'm gonna look down at my handy dandy iPad. I said I was gonna stop calling it handy dandy. It's over. It's already called handy dandy. It's done. What's done is done. So Ephesians 5:21 through 28 says, and further submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. For wives, this means submit to your husbands as to the Lord. For a husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. He is the savior of the body, the church, as the church submits to Christ. So you wives should submit to your husbands in everything. For husbands, this means love your wives just as Christ loved the church. He gave up his life for her to make her holy and clean, washed by the cleansing of God's word. He did this to present her to himself as a glorious church without a spot or wrinkle or any blemish. Instead, she will be holy and without fault. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. For a man who loves his wife actually shows love for himself. And so that scripture speaks about the roles, in a sense, biblically, for a wife and a husband. And some people go off on tangents where it's like, all right, well, if I'm the husband, I must lead in a way where she is below me and she must submit to me and do everything, which obviously I know biblically the Bible's not saying, right? It's not you have to submit and do everything. And yes, master, no, that's not what the Bible's saying. But in a way, society has pushed it to a way where we talk about it and it's just like, the man leads, whatever that looks like. And the wife also submits under, I guess, a healthy sort of authority. I want to say that properly so we're not saying that incorrectly, right? We're not like saying like man leads, woman submits, and that's just it. But in a sense, that's kind of how it is, right?
I'll say this. Yeah, but I'll say this. We read Ephesians 5 when we talk about marriage. But the one piece of what you read that we do not talk about the most is at the end when he says that when you take care of your wife who becomes your flesh, then it is the same way of loving your own body. One of the biggest reasons why we don't have the love and why it's so difficult in relationships is because we don't have any love for ourselves.
Wow.
I mean, we read that, and what we do is because we are so action and sin conscious, we're focusing on the rules. Okay, husband, love your wife as Christ loved the church. That's the part that we preach about. Yeah. Wives, submit unto your husbands as unto everything. Submit unto your own husbands. Then we go, it say your own husband, not somebody else's husband. You submit to your own husband as unto the Lord in everything. Did he say everything? He said everything. And those are the things we stick to.
Yeah.
But we don't go to the end where it says, and he who loves his wife and treats his wife right, treats it like his own flesh, because he also loves his own body. Because any man who treats his flesh right is gonna the same way treat his body right. So we don't go to that part. And it's difficult for you to pour out of an empty cup. How do you expect to give somebody love when you don't have any for yourself? Like when we talk about okay, these are the rules. The young lawyer comes up to Jesus and says, "What are the greatest of these commandments?" Jesus says, "Here we go. The first one is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. The second is like unto it, to love your neighbor." And that's where we stop. But Jesus finished it and he said, "As yourself." And what we don't talk about is a type of healthy self-love. Because in many church denominations, in theological gatherings, we will call self-love as more of a new age type thing. Yeah. You shouldn't love yourself. But the problem is that how can I expect to have love for my neighbor if I hate me?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't give my wife what I don't have in me. I hate me. I have self-hatred for myself. And you say, well, how in the world do I know that? I know how I treat me. I don't feed my body right. That's hatred. I only feed trash to things I don't value. If I don't take care of my body, that means that obviously I don't value it. If I take better care of my car than I do my body, then that lets you know I love my car more than I love my body. Yeah. So how do you expect for me to treat my wife better than I treat my car? I'm going to wash my car every other day, even if it rains on it, because I know that I need to take care of my car. If I love my car, because we teach ourselves in our society, we love our possessions and we tolerate ourselves.
Yikes.
I'm going to tolerate me. I'm going to tolerate my spouse. I'm going to tolerate my kids. And we only tolerate each other because we lack love for ourselves. Can't no man love his wife as Christ so loved the church. Because the man ain't got love for himself. The man don't know who he is. He lacks identity. This man lacks identity. He lacks affirmation. He lacks acceptance. He lacks security. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know where he's from. He don't know where he's going. He don't know what he's supposed to be doing. All he knows is that I'm following behind whoever said it. He knows that somebody told him, brother, you got potential. But if you want to know what a frustrate a man, what a really piss a man off, is you tell him he has potential, but never show him how to reach it. He sees everything in life he could be. He sees it all in pictures. He sees it in videos. He sees it all in front of him. He sees millionaires, billionaires, he sees it in front. He sees the moguls. He sees the guys doing what he wants to do. And he's trying to figure out, how do I do that? He didn't have a father to emulate. And if he did have one to emulate, then whatever his father taught him only brought him to a certain point. I go back to my main point here. Because we lack self-love, because we lack acceptance, because we lack affirmation, because we live in a society that has a lot of rules, but has no substance, then we follow the rules and we get into relationships that still lack substance.
Wow.
There's no way I can love my wife as Christ to love the church. Why? Because I have no love for myself. So I'm willing to feed myself anything, give myself anything, treat myself anyway, talk to myself. The way that we talk to ourselves, we don't need enemies.
Oh man.
I am my worst enemy. I can look at myself right in the mirror and I can tell myself, you ain't worth nothing. You ain't did nothing. You need to do better. You need to look better. You need to go over here. Instead of looking at myself in the mirror and say, you know what? I love you. You can do better, not because you have to do better, but because you know what? You love yourself enough. You owe it to yourself to be better.
Right.
But we don't have that. And you cannot pour out of an empty cup. So we can continue to preach Ephesians 5, but the problem is if you preach Ephesians 5 and all you point out are the rules, then that just lets you know where your mentality is. It's love, it's law conscious.
Yeah.
But if you finally look at the different perspective to what he says this man can do it because it's going to show it in how he loves himself. Because if he don't love himself, he ain't gonna love that woman, and she ain't gonna submit to him.
Right.
Because then she will have a type of submission that's a false submission because that's how she treats herself. So,
wow.
That's my 2 cents on that.
Look, man, I found this napkin on my table, right? I'm not going to lie to you. I don't quite know exactly if I use this or if this is somebody else's napkin, but I'm going to wipe my head because it got hot in here again, man. And you just out here just dropping the gems, man. And that's the point. Like that's it right there. I think pure leadership, true pure love, and allowing someone to submit under you, you'd have to first know how to love yourself, right? And we spoke about that last episode also. There's this idea that we can just pour into other people, and Cornelius, again, I commend you because, like I said, you've poured into me when I had nothing, I still have nothing to give you per se, and you don't even ask for it. You just pour into me just because. But I know that you love yourself, because in order for you to pour into me, you first have to pour into yourself and allow yourself to be full. So when you're pouring out to other individuals, because I'm sure I'm not the only one by far. And so when you're pouring out to other individuals, this is not romantic love. This is just natural love now. You still have to love yourself enough to say, all right, it's good that I'm helping people. It's good that I'm doing this podcast episode right now with good reporters. It's great. But in the same breath, I need to read my Bible in the morning. I still need to let God guide my decisions. I still, like you said, need to eat properly. I still need to work out two times a day. How many times are you working out, brother?
I work out 2 times a day.
2 times a day, man. And look, and if y'all don't know, first of all, let's let everybody know your workout page. 'Cause that workout page just came out, and it made me go to the gym 2 times already. What's your workout page on Instagram again? What's that at?
What is it? It's called Warrior Club _world.
Warrior Club _world. Well, if you guys don't follow that,
Warrior Club _world.
Yeah, if you don't follow that, go follow that, because I mean, like I said, we all need to. That's a good promo into that. But really, it's true about just loving ourselves. And truly, I've been looking at myself.
But isn't it something though? Because normally people will say, "Man, you work out twice a day." Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's so each workout has to be a minimum of 45 minutes, mm-hmm. and I think my perspective has changed after doing this for almost 75 days. Mm-hmm. I've been doing this since the beginning of the year, but I think my perspective has changed, because in the beginning I was like, yeah, it sounds kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. You work out twice a day, at least 45 minutes, and I have to work out outside at least for one workout. It sounds crazy, but what doesn't sound crazy is sitting down in front of a television and watching a whole series, for 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. That doesn't sound crazy to us in our society. Yeah. But we sit down in front of a television for it to tell us a vision. Yeah. Instead of going outside and actually loving yourself enough to do a squat. Yeah. And then we complain, and then we jump into the pharmaceutical industry. And the pharmaceutical industry is $300 and something billion last year. Man. $300 and something billion for pharmaceutical drugs. Because when the diet is bad, then we have to run to pharmaceuticals. We got to run to medicine and drugs. But when the diet is good, then we don't have to rely on pharmaceutical. We don't have to rely on the drugs. I know people, they take all this medication, not because of any other thing. For some of them, they got to take it for whatever they're going for. But for most of us, we're taking medication because we have a poor diet. Like, when a doctor looks at you and says, I need you to take a vitamin D supplement. I mean, for a lot of people, it's like, take your butt outside. The sun. That's natural. Yeah. It's the sun. The sun give you vitamin D. Why you sit your butt? I mean, here's the thing. We sit inside all day long for 8 hours. You can't go for a walk at night. Just go for a walk. Well, it's cold outside. You'll be all right. It's raining. You won't melt. You might, if you're a wicked witch. You might, but you ain't. Yeah. You ain't chocolate. Get your butt outside.
You won't melt.
Get outside. You can walk. You ain't gonna melt. You'll be all right. Oh, let me stop.
Well, then it's lit, man.
Now these people mad at you.
No, they ain't gonna be mad at me. I ain't chocolate either. I'm caramel.
Caramel don't melt either. Caramel don't melt. Vanilla don't melt. Don't nothing. You ain't now one of them. Your skin gonna be fine. And just look at it like this. You probably didn't take a shower anyway, so look at it like God giving you a little bath. Just giving you a little rinse off.
Look, you heard it here first, man. Get out in the rain, y'all, and work out in the rain too, because Cornelius apparently does that also. But look, I appreciate, first of all, let me just stop by saying I appreciate you for coming on this podcast. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
You gotta always show respect to other people, man. This is, like I said, this is a love series. You gotta show love to other people while they're here. You know what I mean? I got a Kobe Bryant shirt on. I didn't even think about that. I got a Kobe Bryant shirt on. I'm gonna be honest with you. I love Kobe Bryant. I love his game. I was never a straight up Kobe fan. I always wanted them to lose. But I've bought more shirts now for Kobe than I did when Kobe was alive. And That's unfortunate. You know what I mean? Like, that's unfortunate, because that's kind of like giving people their roses when they're gone, right? And if people have done things for you, if there's anything I've ever talked about in last episode with Love Thy Neighbor, still show love to other people who are around you, because, I mean, it's vital. You can't just say, I appreciate you, bro, or like, you're doing good things and just kind of like leave it at that. and then don't talk to somebody for years, or don't ever say like, I see what you're doing. Like a lot of people will go by, they probably see you in person, be like, I see what you're doing on Instagram, man, and not really talk to you about it at all, not really support it at all. Just kind of like, I saw what you was doing, man. It was pretty dope. Don't tell anybody about it, but yet at the same time sharing their favorite artists, sharing these things. And so, I mean, today, like I said, the opportunity right now for me is just to say thank you to you. Never really quite said it face to face. This is the best we could get in terms of face to face. But thank you. Just appreciate you so much for first being here, blessing everybody with the knowledge and the wisdom, some jokes, but also for just being helpful for me. The relationship I have right now, large part of it comes from advice you've given me at a point in time. It's been a big blessing for me. Clothing line that I'm creating, the business, Good Reporters, that we're sitting in right now, is created based off the idea of me wanting to create a clothing line, which came off of the idea of what you were doing with the Man Cave Society and how I could just put that out there. So I really appreciate you for doing that and for being an open ear and just for like, man, if you need help with anything, look, this is a website. This is what you can do. Thank you for that. Thank you for pouring into people when sometimes you probably didn't even pour into yourself. I can't tell, but I'm saying sometimes you probably didn't even pour into yourself and you're pouring into other people. Yeah. Thank you for that. If nobody thanks you for that, no. You know what I mean? So that's how
I really appreciate.
That's how we gotta do. You spread love, man. It's the Brooklyn way. Even though New York, and they about to lose me out here with this weather. But yeah, spread love, man. It's the Brooklyn way, brother. And I appreciate you for what you do, and I appreciate you and Heather as well and your family just for what they do, for what you guys do, even on social media. Because what you do, it's inspiring. You know what I mean? It's helpful and it's real. So I appreciate that, and I want to thank you for that. Spread love in that way, man.
Well, you really appreciate. I thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's an honor. I pray that you keep doing this, and it's needed. And don't ever get sidetracked. Yeah. Don't ever look at the numbers. Don't look at anything else. You never measure obedience by outward appearance. Yeah. I really appreciate you even having me on here. It's a complete honor for me, and I appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir, man. No, you're right about that. Don't look at the numbers. Look, quick segue, and then we're about to get into just like we're gonna end this, and then I want to also promo, because if you don't know, like I said, if you don't know Cornelius in the beginning of this episode, some people do, some people don't. But if you don't know, him and his wife also have an amazing podcast, and I'll let him promo that a bit. We'll probably even put a clip in. And there'll be information at the end of this.
Yo, this is your boy Cornelius Lindsay. Yo, my podcast agency, what are they thinking? They've given me a whole new podcast, y'all. Hey, let me introduce it to y'all, though. It's called To Be Honest. Peep this, right? So I'm sitting down with my homies, sitting down with my friends. We having conversations about different things, from religion to family to food to parenting, fatherhood. I mean, a whole bunch of stuff. And yo, we talking, but we not getting this stuff recorded. And I'm sitting there talking to him like, yo, we got to be able to talk about this stuff. We live in a world today full of fluff. Everybody's offended over every little thing, and every little thing people say. Forget all that. We're gonna have some straight talk. Just get right down to the nitty gritty and talk about some things that really matter to us the most. Talk about some current events with some stuff that's really happening on the inside of us. This is To Be Honest. Yo, this is about to be your favorite podcast. So make sure you subscribe now, because we hitting you, and we hitting you hard. Yo, this is Cornelius Lindsay. Peep me with this. To Be Honest.
To be honest. Is the pod going on? To be honest, sit down, we need to have a talk. Cornelius gonna make a point that the others don't. The mother shows sound the same, come escape the box. Expand your mind, dig into no controversial topics. He ain't scared to keep it real. Tune into this podcast, but don't be in your feelings. We gon' have a laugh, we gon' talk about some pain. Let's talk about the present situation of today. To be honest. Is this the podcast? I think it's on it right now.
Hey guys, my name is Heather Lindsay.
And my name is Cornelius Lindsay.
And I'm so excited that you landed on Life with the Lindsays.
This is so exciting. This gives us an opportunity to share our life with yours.
Yes, we're going to be talking about everything from entrepreneurship to ministry to your purpose to why you are here, family, parenting, relationships, marriage, sex, you name it. We are talking about it.
So thank you so much for joining us today with Life with the Lindsays.
And so Cornelius, right now I want to give you an opportunity just to let people know about where they can find you personally. Also, just want to give people an opportunity to hear where they can find your podcast and other things as well.
Sure. So I'm on Instagram and Twitter as This is Cornelius. You can also follow me on Stereo, stereo.com/ This is Cornelius, stereo.com/ This is Cornelius. You can download the Stereo app. Again, I'm stereo.com. This is Cornelius. So This is Cornelius on Instagram, Twitter, and Stereo. I'm Cornelius Lindsay on Facebook. My wife and I, we have a podcast called Life with the Lindsays. And I also have a single podcast that I call To Be Honest. And it's just honest dialogue, very authentic conversation. I bring in some of my homies and we have some good conversations. So that's pretty much all. That's pretty much it. Now, again, Chris, I really appreciate you having me on here.
For sure, brother. For sure, man. I appreciate you coming on. And so everybody to take care. Cornelius, thank you so much again. And everybody have a good one. Don't forget to be a good reporter, because good reporters bring good news.